I recently did a 2-day Shakespeare workshop. I'm an actor. I've been acting since I was less than a year old, but one aspect of acting that's not totally eluded me, but just not been a primary discipline of mine is Shakespeare. I've done, I think, only one actual Shakespeare play. It was Hamlet, senior year of high school. And I haven't done too many Shakespeare scenes. Sporadically throughout some acting classes I have here and there, but it's really just, it's not something that I feel naturally compelled towards, and I respect the crap out of people that are naturally compelled towards Shakespeare. But I will say, once I get into the thick of it, I generally start enjoying myself, you know. It takes a little bit of activation energy to get me into that world of Shakespeare, but once I'm there, I'm generally pretty happy. We all just got our little subsets of our skills that we like to focus on. Part of the reason, though, that we focus on specific ones are generally because we're good at those already. For example, I'm very good at being a campy actor. There is a real art to camp, and it's not something that everybody can do. Fantastic actors in realism can't necessarily do camp very well. And in this similar vein, I have a strength of camp, and, I can be pretty good at realism too. But I'm not particularly skilled in Shakespeare. And so that is part of the reason why I don't naturally gravitate toward it, is because it takes a little bit of more conscious effort for me to get to what I feel is a good Shakespeare performance. But there's this balance that you have to find in any sort of mastery, wherein there is time, maybe even a lot of time, maybe even a majority of your time, focused on doing the aspect that you're already very good at. And then there is time to come over here for a little bit with what you're not so great at. What exactly is that ratio? I can't say for sure. But there's, I think, value to all of it. And I think lessons that I learn over here in Shakespeare absolutely come back around and inform other aspects of acting, like camp and realism and whatnot. Because that separation, it has some objectivity to it, but in the grand scheme of things, any amount of participating in anything is connected. I think sometimes about basketball and how there are players that were really not amazing scorers, which is what we put the most praise on typically in the sports media, but that were absolutely knock it out of the park in other aspects, like defense or assists. It's not so black and white what makes for a great basketball player. The unfortunate thing about basketball is that it is limiting in that your body breaks down after a while and you can't do it forever. Acting isn't so much that way. But I do wonder, given an infinite amount of time, would like a Dennis Rodman, who really was not a scorer but was a phenomenal defensive player, would it benefit him to bring up his scoring? I mean, yeah, probably. But it still wouldn't change the fact that his bread and butter would be rebounding and just playing relentless defense. Yeah, I can't decide any sort of ratio between doing what you're good at and doing what you're not as good at. One can only decide that for themselves. And how do you decide that? Well, two things. You can follow what seems to be your optimal performance. Where do you feel like you're just being the most successful at what you're doing in that balance? And then the other question, of course, is, well, what leaves you the most fulfilled? I mean, if I were amazing at acting, but I was terrible at playing the harp, but playing the harp gave me infinitely more joy, I think that I would have no choice but to say maybe I'm going to focus on playing the harp a little bit more. I've never touched a harp. It's one of those countless interests that I sometimes think about taking up just a little bit, but I know that I would spend a lot of money on a harp, and then it would sit and gather dust, and I would know like 2 songs on it. uh, yeah. There's a time for what you're great at, time for what you're not so great at. And there is an infinite amount of time for praising yourself for all the trials and tribulations of just trying to do anything that you're passionate about, period.